Welcome all. Thank you for coming tonight to our first Customer Advisory Committee meeting for the Project 2030 study. So once everyone gets seated here, we're going to have you stand back up. So I'd like to start off this meeting, and then we'll move forward with every meeting. We'll be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could please stand, and we have the flag right over here. Put your hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. And by the way, I am Missy Pieri. Forgot to introduce myself. I'm the engineering manager, district engineer for Citrus Heights Water District.
And I'm Laura Mason-Smith, your facilitator for tonight, and we're glad to have you all back. And some of you, this is your first meeting, so we're thrilled to have you here. Wanted to go through the agenda, and then we'll just go around the room and have you introduce yourselves again. We're really pleased that you're physically closer together. You can see each other and get to know each other and have a great conversation. So tonight, and so you'll see in front of you, you have sort of a short agenda. And so the main purpose, like last time, we're building a foundation of understanding. And so tonight, we'll be looking at the district's history, the current operations and the budget, the water main replacement study, kind of the overview of the entire study. Tonight, you all will be selecting your chair and vice chair, and you'll get a preview of our next meeting. So again, tonight, much like last time was a foundational meeting, tonight also will be a foundational meeting. We have, you'll have in front of you what we're calling fondly the placemat. And so you have all of you and all of the district staff are shown on the front, and also the consultants. And then you'll see on the back the project overview, which I know that Missy and Roger Cohn will be going through in detail later on, and also some ground rules for tonight. So I thought that might be good just to go through those. It's just sort of our working agreements for how we'll work together. So listening for understanding and showing respect for all, which you were terrific at last time when we got together. Just remembering that everyone's here because you want to make the district better and the community better. Differences are to be understood and acknowledged rather than debated. So it's great to have different views, and we just want to be sure that we listen to those. And theoretically, you are representative of all of the customers of the district, so it's great to hear different views. One thing to remember, you know, we're all different. Some of us talk a lot, some of us are more silent, and we're really thinking and pondering, but silence only means silence. We can't infer what that means. So it is important at some point, if you have something to say, to be sure to speak up. And we would ask that you have one speaker at a time and no side conversations. One thing that I'm sure you know, it'll be very helpful for you to read the materials ahead of time and really come in prepared, and then we can have a much better conversation. The last three items on here are longer. You'll see them on here. And they reflect what was presented at the last meeting about the Brown Act. And so I'm just going to really read them because I think it's important. And again, if you have any questions on those, you can ask Missy or Chris Castruda, and they can be very helpful with those. So meeting or having a discussion with a majority of your CAC members should be conducted during the publicly advertised CAC meetings. That allows members of the public to follow along with the process. And we have seating should any public comments, any people be here that want to make public comments. If for some reason you feel you may need to have a verbal conversation with more than a handful of the CAC members, please contact Chris or Missy, and they can discuss the best way to go about doing that. Please do not use your private email or mobile device to discuss CAC business with other members. Email, text messages, and voicemail pertaining to the CAC business may be considered public records, and those could be subpoenaed from you. So if you have a question or concern, please contact Chris or Missy to discuss the best approach for handling that issue. And also, just a kind of a final point, if you feel that you cannot put your emotions aside on a particular issue, whether it's because it affects you financially, personally, please, again, contact Chris or Missy. So those are our ground rules. How do those look? Is there anything else you would like to propose that would be helpful, or any questions you have on those? We're good? Okay. All right, great. Well, let's keep going with going around the room. And again, just so that you can remember who's here. And so your name and your affiliation or role. For example, you might be representing, you might be a resident, you might be representing an agency, you might be a staff person, et cetera. So there's a mic in front of you if you would speak into that mic. So right now you could all push the button if it's in front of you and turn on the mic. And anyone can start who wants to, and then we'll just go around. So do we have someone who would like to start with an introduction? All right.
Yes. David Wheaton. I'm a residential representative.
Amy Foff, residential.
Hi, Dave Mitchell with Sunrise Recreation Park District.
I'm Mike Nishimura. I'm the general manager of Elephant Bar Restaurant, but I represent Sunrise Marketplace as a commercial.
Peg Pinard, and I represent residential.
Rick Moses, residential.
Wes Irvin, representing the Citrus Heights Chamber and commercial users of water.
Hi, Jenna Moser. I'm residential from Birdcage Heights.
Still not on.
Rick Moore, residential.
Patty Catalano, residential.
David Page, residential.
Portia Middleton, residential.
Chris Ralston, San Juan Unified.
Suzanne Guthrie, residential.
Kimberly Berg, commercial.
Ray Reilly, I'm a board member.
Cindy Price, Sylvan Cemetery District.
Jim Monteaton, I'm a residential.
Roger Cohn with Harrison Associates. We are the lead consulting, and I'm the project manager for the consultant team.
Susan Soho, CHWD staff.
And I'm Hillary Strauss, General Manager at Citrus Heights Water.
Madeline Henry with CHWD.
Rex Mears, CHWD.
Tamar Dawson, CHWD.
Paul Dietrich, Citrus Heights Water District.
David Gordon, Operations Manager at Citrus Heights Water District.
And Missy Pieri, Engineering Manager, District Engineer for Citrus Heights Water.
I'm Chris Castrita. I'm our Management Services Supervisor with Citrus Heights Water.
And hopefully during lunch or during the break, you will, you'll just interact with each other, get to know each other, chat, and because I know you'll be working together a lot over the next several months. All right, let's keep going and look at the district historical overview. And so David Gordon, who's the operations manager, will be taking us through that.
All right, thank you, Laura. All right. As mentioned before, my name is David Gordon. I'm the operations manager at Citrus Heights Water District, and it is my pleasure to talk to you a little bit about the background and history of the Citrus Heights Water District. But before we really talk about the history of the district, or concurrently with that, it really based off of California's history. And because James Marshall, in January 24th, 1848, discovered gold in Colusa, or near Colusa, that is about 20 miles, a little more than 20 miles from here. And what the significance of that is that we had a lot of people rushing to California from all over the world, and more specifically to this region. And to take advantage of this, the American Water and Mining Company was formed out of Mormon Island, which is in current Folsom Lake, to serve water to these mining operations and to the agricultural users. Let's go to the next slide. Go. So the American Water and Mining Company claimed a stake for serving this water. They built a dam near present-day Auburn, the city of Auburn, and what they did in 1856, that is, was an engineering feat. Back then, and still to this day, is that they constructed a canal that was 33 miles long in 1 year. This canal was, sorry, I'm dropping the papers here, was approximately 3 feet deep, 8 feet wide at the top, and 5 feet wide at the base. And so this canal went 33 miles from that dam along the American River and served all the mining operations and agricultural users in the region. Going back, what is a miner's inch, you might wonder. So the company made claim to 3,000 miner inches. So that is an actual flow measurement. And when you use a canal or a flume, a piece of wood or something that restricts flow is placed in there. And the flow outside on the bottom here, you can see that this would be 1 miner's inch. Flip that around, 2 miner's inches. Very simple. So that canal was essentially 3,000 miner's inches. So from 1880s to 1920, development to the community progressed. Colonies were formed in the region, and the mining operations kept on going, but people started going out more towards the agriculture. And in response to this, the California legislature passed the RIGHT Act in 1887. So this RIGHT Act allowed farmers to pool their resources and create an irrigation district to better serve them water and give them other utilities. A notable year for us was in 1909, is that the American Water and Mining Company was purchased by the North Fork Ditch Company, and the significance of that is that the colonies and communities that were receiving water from the American Water and Mining Company basically wanted local control of their infrastructure, and so this purchase established the whole as the North Fork Ditch Company as a wholesale supplier only, not as their retail agency server to these farmers. And during this period, the Orangeville Water Company was established in 1896. The Carmichael Irrigation District was established in 1916. The Fair Oaks Irrigation District in 1917, and the Citrus Heights Irrigation District was established in 1920. Now, prior to us being the Citrus Heights Irrigation District, later turned to the Citrus Heights Water District as a better representation of our name, we were known as the Citrus Heights Water Takers Association, and also the American Cannon Company, as in hydraulic cannons shooting the side of the hill. So in December 1920, the board authorized $240,000 for the development of water mains to every 10-acre tract throughout the district. So part of the bid was a type of pipe material to be used for this construction. And the 6 types were soil-proof steel pipe, redwood main with a steel distribution, a redwood system, a double dip, double riveted seal, fir main, redwood distribution, and fir wood or stave. The chosen material was soil-proof steel pipe. But that is not to say that we do not encounter several of those from time to time in the field. In 1920, the district looked a lot different than it does now. We served 225 farms as opposed to over 20,000 service connections today. It was 4.7 square miles as opposed to approximately or nearly 13 square miles today. The water supply availability, this was always a question, and we have records that the North Fork Ditch Company would oftentimes come to our board meetings and promote water conservation and the use of farmers to irrigate only at night as opposed to during the day. The district also installed 2 sirens to notify customers that the water was going to either be off or was going to be on, because water supply was very hard to have as consistent. And so these 2 sirens were at Sylvan Cemetery, and another one was located at the corner of Greenback and Mariposa. In the 1930s, the California Water Plan identified Folsom Lake, the requirement for Folsom Lake to be built. This plan only included it for the flooding of the Sacramento Valley. In the late 1940s, all the districts petitioned for it to be a multi-use project, which President Harry Truman then signed and commissioned for a multi-purpose dam to be built. What is significant about that multi-purpose is that the North Fork Ditch Company's facilities are shown in this green highlighted map drawn out by the Corps of Engineers in the early 1950s. And this meant that all of these facilities would be inundated by Folsom Lake and would then therefore need to be relocated. And the water supplies to the North Fork Ditch Company and to its retailers would have to be moved. So you can see Folsom Lake in the blue there, and you can see the North Fork Ditch Company's facilities in the green. Now, when it is a drought year, you can actually go out there and see some of those old facilities that were inundated. Concurrently with the construction of Folsom Dam, the agencies receiving water supplies from North Fork Ditch Company felt that it was to their interest to have a public utility serve them rather than a private company such as North Fork Ditch Company. So in 1954, the voters went out and voted for the creation of San Juan Suburban Water District. 2 things that are significant of that is that San Juan Suburban Water District was the first community services district in California, and also the name San Juan is an homage to this area, is that the name of the community that we are in right now was Rancho del San Juan, and so that's where that name came from. A few things about San Juan Water District. It is a wholesale supplier to 5 retail agencies, us being one, San Juan Water District Retail, Orangeville Water Company, Fair Oaks Water District, and a tiny sliver of the city of Folsom just this side of the American River. Another thing about San Juan is they own and operate the water treatment facility that serves us surface water. In 1979, they built a large-scale treatment facility, state-of-the-art, and it can process and treat 150 million gallons per day. And also, part of this treatment facility is a 62 million gallon reservoir that this treated water is then pumped into and then pumped out to us, the retail agencies. Another thing to note is that about 90% of the water that we serve to our customers comes through this treatment facility. The other 10% comes from our groundwater. When we started thinking about this project that we're talking about today, we thought we were original. We thought 2030, what a great name. 70 years since the big creation of expansion of our district. And really going through the records, Project 1956 was actually the name of this project that we found. And this was actually to address the big development that was about to occur. So, you know, our predecessors were very intelligent with planning this out and understanding that there was going to be a large growth about to occur. And so they took the time and studied where the best locations would be for these large backbone transmission pipeline system would go, and then would serve this big development that then occurred slightly afterwards with smaller distribution mains serving those neighborhoods. Thing to note is that these transmission mains, these large-scale transmission mains, are still in service today and are still part of our backbone that we utilize. A little bit about our wells. We own and operate 6 high-capacity wells, and we've decommissioned 7 wells. Those decommissioned wells were put in place in the 1940s and 50s during that time that I told you that there was supply reliability at that time prior to Folsom Lake. And as we know now, there is supply reliability issues continuously with Folsom Lake, and therefore our wells still are needed today. Here is a picture of today's wells compared to our past wells and the differences of security and environmental compliance and sheer size of the property needed for these. Another significant project that the district was involved in was that in 1998 we were part of a multi-agency project to address several things. Is that we needed redundancy from our wholesale supplier because we only had a 42-inch main coming from the wholesaler, and if something happened to that, we're out of water. So this addressed that issue. It also addressed redundancy for our other neighboring agencies. And this pipeline also continues into the Sacramento region and provides water to other agencies, and those agencies prior to this were only on groundwater supply. And so this gives them the availability to use surface water so that way they're not depleting our valuable groundwater resources. This graph here shows you the water consumption data going from 1971 to 2017. A couple things to note. By the way, this is acre feet. This is what we measure water in, not miners inches. But a couple of dates that are significant here, where there's significant variability that were addressed, was that these were drought years. And if anybody remembers the drought of 1976 and 77, or the drought from 1987 to 92, these were very significant. And then the latest one of 2012 to 2017. Another year that I want to point out is the year 1999 for several reasons. This was the largest consumption date year that we've ever had. Second, this is more than double the consumption that we had in 2015. And 3, that the water meter project for residential homes started occurring 1 year after that year, and then was completed in 2008. So that concludes my history for today, and so I hope you all learned something about the history of the district. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Laura Mason-Smith.
All right, so we want to get a sense of when you came to the district and what was going on then. So you will see in the back of the room some of the district team, and they will have blocks of letters. So will you just get up, go back to the line back there, and position yourself when you came to the district. So when did you first come to the Citrus Heights Water District? Okay, so in your cluster, your clump, your 15-year cluster, would you introduce yourself to the people in your cluster? Just tell them when you came to the district, and then we'll keep going. And again, give your name again so that you do get to know each other. That was awesome. That was really good.
Might have been used for air raid warning and stuff too.
Well, and you can join together here. Come on. You can come on into this group and say hi. Hey, but here, you're. Okay, Dave, are you going to give us some data about what happened in these time frames?
All right, thank you.
So, if y'all, you can stay where you are, but he's going to share what was going on.
Yes. So what I have here is a growth chart of the district dating back from 1920 till now, and this is the size of the district. Okay, and so this corresponds to some of the big growth that we've had when everybody here joined the district. So some significant times, 1955, the district was 5.1 square miles.
And we have one person who was here in 1955, so.
Maybe not me personally.
Not you personally.
San Juan Unified, San Juan High School's already celebrated 100 years, so predate some of these signs.
Great, thanks.
So San Juan Unified was here before 1955, and actually our first board meeting occurred at San Juan High School. So thank you. Thank you for the facility. 1970, the district was 7.5 square miles. So we have 3 people that were here by 1970. So thank you. In 1985, the district was 11.9 square miles in size. And we have 2 more that joined the district by that time, or is it 4 more? 4 more. Okay. And then in 2000, the district was 12.3 square miles, and we have a large number of people that had joined the district by then. And then in 2015, the district was approximately 12.7 square miles. So you can really see the growth of the district that occurred from the beginning of 1955 up till now, but more specifically 1985. Also included in this graph is the consumption data that you saw at the previous chart. So from 1971, the orange is the water consumption data, and then the gray is the actual square miles of the district. So
does that mean that this group just drank a lot?
They did.
Okay, well, I think you'll find it really interesting, too, during breaks for people that have been here the newest to talk with people that have been here the longest, et cetera, and just find out things that are different about the district in that time. So thanks so much. Let's head back to the tables.
Consumption is so low compared to population.
And please be sure during our session, if you would like any coffee or lemonade or any of the refreshments back there, please feel free to just go ahead, get it, and bring it back to the table. So I think we can just be very relaxed on that. All right. Yes, David.
Picture of a water main. Can you go back to that?
Yeah, that's huge.
So the one thing that's significant on this photo is that if you look at the writing here, it's upside down, so it's hard to see, but it says North Fork Ditch Company. So this is a very old main prior to changing over to San Juan Water District. So, you know, I'm not really sure. There's not much data on that. Oh, so the question was, what is the size of this main? I'm not positive, but it appears to be similar in size to one of our larger mains. Is that a 42-inch water main, and then upsizing to a larger size, and you know, I can take a guess it's somewhere in the 60s to 70s. You'll see these two meters here. This is actually how you understand the flow going through there.
Well, and we have time. We have about 5 minutes, too, if anyone else had any questions on the history or anything you were curious about. And just be sure to speak into your mic if you would.
What were they watering in 1995? I mean, that's crazy amounts of water, and there wasn't a drought year, so what were they watering? What was all that water being used for?
Lawns. Lots of lawns.
And talking to some colleagues about those years, one thing that was significant in 1998, 1999 was there was large amounts of rain that occurred during that time. And so there was flooding going on in 97, 98 to the region. And so I think with the water supply availability at that time, people probably used a lot more water. But yeah, probably just water usage.
I grew up off of
Juan, be sure to talk into the mic.
I grew up off of Wonder Street, and we had 3 acres, and all of our neighbors on the street had 3 acres. And we ran sprinklers 24/7 from the 1st of June until the 1st of September for animals or just to keep it green. So we weren't metered. It was easy to run water. The district had lots of water, and the price was the same whether you turned your water on or didn't. So I think that was probably the biggest issue through much of, up until meters showing up.
Yeah.
That's when people changed their behaviors.
Okay, well, great. Let's keep going then and look more specifically at the district and look at the organization chart, look at the strategic plan and the budget, and Susan Sohal will be walking through that with us.
Okay, folks, so I'm going to walk you through today through the organization as a whole and then go into the budget a little bit. So starting with our district boundaries, what you will see here is that we have in the blue marked the city of Citrus Heights, their boundaries, and in the orange you'll see is the district itself. Now we do have, as David mentioned, it is 12 square miles now, and we are divided up into 3 divisions. That is that we have a 3-member board. So in Division 1 we have Carol Sheehan, Division 2 we have Ray Reilly, who is here with us today, and Division 3 we have Al Danes. And just to note also that 2 of the divisions are up for election this year, and they will end in 2018. So next, visiting the organization as a whole, you can see that we are a very lean operation. Staff of 34 employees. We have 34 employees serving 20,000 connections. So, which is a fairly medium-sized operation. Just going through it, we have administrative services department, and that's what I manage myself. We have the general manager's office, and we have the engineering department, which Missy manages, and the operations department, which David manages. So taking a little bit of a deeper dive into it, you'll see here, this is the administrative services department, and we have a total of about 9 employees covering basically finance, the treasurer, and treasurer is where we basically manage and maintain our investments in the district, or investment, really like finances. And the second part is then we go moving on is purchasing, customer service, which is our staff up front who, takes the phone calls or payments up front. And further in, we go into, strategic planning, the HR, risk management, which is like our insurance, and then clerk of the board and special projects. Next, in the general manager's office, we have our water efficiency and metering, and also loss prevention. And you'll see here, this is where we track a lot of our regional, state, and federal issues. So we're tracking a lot of our legislative issues that are coming down from the state. And then also special projects. And through here, you'll also notice, which you're going to be part of later on, is our metering program, or meter replacement program, which Rex will be taking the lead on. Next, we have the engineering department, and in the engineering department, we have our capital improvement program. So this is where we have the reinvestment and recapitalization of all the infrastructure that is in the ground. So that is what we're here today to talk about. Missy will further, go into the capital improvement program later. And last but certainly not least, we have our operations department. So this is where we have the operations maintenance of our water distribution system. This is where we have 3 crews of 3 persons. So very small crew, very small operations that we run to go around and maintain our facilities and fleet and infrastructure in the ground. They also maintain and test out our water quality. That is also our groundwater as well as the water supply coming in. And the groundwater production, as I was mentioning, testing those out. So next, I'd like to go a little bit more into our budget. So I'm just going to touch upon our budget a little bit here today quickly, and then later on we will be going into it in the coming sessions further as we start to get more deeper into our Project 2030. So a little bit about our budget process. It starts with our strategic planning session, and this year it will be in July. Typically it's in about June. And next going through, I will go into each of these a little more in detail as we go through in the next slide, so I'm going to kind of go right through these. And next is our budget and rate model study. So this is where we take all our items from the strategic planning session and put them in to our rate model. And we have a study session with the board of directors, and it is a public meeting, which is typically held in August. Then from there, we have a set of refined options, and we introduce the actual budget in September. And from there, board will give us direction on if there is a rate increase that is needed, we will go ahead and move forward with a Prop 218 notice. So the Prop 218 notice, you will notice, is, or you probably receive a mailer in about September, October time of every year if we have a rate increase, notifying you that we will be increasing rates and what it will, for what reason, and a little more detail behind it. So then in October, you will see we have the introduction of the proposed miscellaneous charges and fees. So those are fees like the plan check charges, late fees, or new service fees. And in October and early November, we will do our community meetings. So we will go to each of the neighborhood associations and meet with customers and talk about, what it is that we're doing, what our budget process is, what it entails, and, why we're doing what we're doing. So then in November or December of this year, we will have the budget and rate adoption. So going into our strategic plan, it starts out with our capital improvement program. There are 5 categories, one of which is the capital improvement program. And this is basically the replacement of our mains and services. Project 2030, which is what we are here for today, and that is our water main replacements, and Missy will go into that later a little more. Water efficiency program, that's the public outreach landscape classes that Rex holds, and also he does a poster contest with the students in the area on how to conserve water, which is really nice. You should take a look at those posters, they're really cute. And also the meter replacement program, as mentioned earlier. Water supply, as David mentioned, is our groundwater well development program, as well as the water supply coming in from imported water from San Juan Water District. And last but not least, we have our organization-wide objectives, and some of the key things that we're working on this year is the website redesign. We also have a new board member orientation that we will be holding, and also our, what do you call that? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Yes, the document management system. Thank you. Sorry. So, as I was mentioning, what we do is after the strategic plan, we go ahead and we gather all this information and plug it into our financial model. And what this is, it's a long-term projection out of about 10 years on what we are projecting as far as reinvesting into our district or ongoing operations and maintenance, and then also what we need in the way of funds and reserves for for projecting out and smoothing out our budget. Then we go ahead and analyze it in our financial model, which then kind of spits out into our rate model. It's one big giant spreadsheet. And that then determines the revenue that is needed in order to maintain our budget and our infrastructure. So here I will go through a little bit about our current year expenses, or adopted budget. So starting out, you will see this is kind of an overview of the pie of what we have. It starts out with our capital improvement program. That's about 32.25%. Then our operations and maintenance, which is at about 37.64%. Salary and benefits, which is about 21.53%. And funds and reserves transfers, which is about 8.58%. So what does that mean? Let's relate it to our normal everyday household, living. Capital improvement program, well, that could be like your kitchen remodel. What are you doing to reinvest in your home, which is going to increase the value of your asset, your home? Operations and maintenance, that would be like your auto insurance or your cable bill, what you're paying the gardener, food and gas. Salary and benefits, maybe it's what you pay your babysitter to watch the kids, or maybe you pay yourself to wash the dishes. I don't know. And the funds and reserves, which is basically like a savings account. Maybe you're saving it for your kitchen remodel. You have another savings going for your children's education, or even your retirement. And our 2018 projected revenue, one thing I do want to note here, and I think you can see, is pretty clear. We don't have a diverse source of revenue. I mean, our revenue pretty much comes 96% from meter service charges. That is, you, the customers, what you're paying through your bill. And just a small portion of it is, the 4% is miscellaneous. So that's, the fees, miscellaneous fees that I talked about, developer fees, plans check charges, late fees, not very much. With that, I can hand it over. I know Missy and David are going to go over the current operations.
Thank you, Susan.
All right, thank you, Susan. So I'd like to go over just the blue portion of the pie. That is our capital improvement program. Just to give you kind of a little background knowledge of our system. So as you can see, the blue portion is about a third of our budget, and that's reinvesting in our infrastructure. So we do currently have a capital improvement plan that we are working under. It was developed back in 1999, and it's a 30-year plan. So this plan really identifies three main areas for our improvements. So we have well development, as we've all talked about. We also have water meter installations and replacements. And in the orange is our water main replacement. So those are our transmission mains, our distribution mains, and the various appurtenances, such as our water services and valves and fire hydrants. And really the orange piece is what we are here for, the Project 2030 study. So we'll go into a little bit more on this, but really just to point out the well development and water meter replacements. We're just giving you that information as background. That's not part of the Project 2030 study, but it's just for your knowledge. So this capital improvement plan did identify and prioritize projects that need to be replaced. This was back in 1999, so we have a list of projects, and we've been using this plan for a number of years, and we're doing a really good job at making upgrades and doing replacements, and we're well over 50%, probably closer to 70% of completing all of those projects. So first, I'd like to just give a brief overview of our well development. We've talked about this several times, but just another recap. We do get about 90% of our water from surface water from Folsom Lake. So we're heavily reliant on our surface water. We also do get about 10% of our water from groundwater. The district has 6 wells that we own and operate, so that groundwater is from our facilities. So our capital improvement plan that was developed in 1995 identified that we need about 10 wells to really provide a reliable supply of water. So we're a little short on that, but we're really moving forward with purchasing additional properties right now. So our goal this year is really focusing on property acquisition. So we are looking for properties for well sites 7 and 8. So if any of you know of any nice properties in the district, please let us know. Each well site needs about a half an acre or so. All right. So another key program that we've talked about and that Rex Muir is heading up is our water meter replacement program. So the reason for water meters, back in 1990, state law mandated that all water connections be metered. So Citrus Heights Water District, we were proactive when we were one of the first water districts that started the residential water meter installation program. We started installing water meters back in early 2000 and finished all of that work in 2008. So we had over 20,000 or about 20,000 water meters installed by 2008. So with any mechanical device, as you know, there is a useful life, and for water meters, they're about 20 years, give or take. Now, depending on the water quality, it may go up a little bit more, and we do have really good water quality here, so we're expecting a little bit longer than 20-year life for our water meters. So in order to replace those meters, we're really looking at an advanced planning study to determine how we're going to replace these first generation meters. So the district is currently working on that. We are looking at working with other water agencies to develop this study. Each water agency has to go through the same process as us, installing water meters or replacing them. So we are in partnership right now with several water agencies, San Juan Water District, Orangevale, Fair Oaks, and a number of others that are very interested in partnering with us in this study. So as this project moves forward, all you CAC members will be involved in this study. We're still in the early stages of it though. Right now Rex and Hillary and David, they're preparing, along with all those other water agencies, they're preparing a request for proposal to hire a consultant to assist us in this study. So once that consultant is selected, which we're thinking it's going to be early next year, that's when we'll get the CAC involved in the study. So be ready for that. All right, another key program we have is our transmission, distribution, and appurtenant replacement, which is our water main replacement. So as you can see, the picture on the left shows a water main break. Obviously, we don't want those. Those cause a number of issues. We lose water, property loss or damage, and it's really an unsafe condition. So, you know, the goal of replacing water mains, we really want to do it before this happens. We want to make sure we replace those water mains before the end of their useful life. So up above, we have some criteria that we use for water main replacements for prioritizing them. So we have pipe type. There's different pipe types that are in the ground, and not each pipe is created equal. Some pipe types last longer than others, some stronger. We have thin-walled steel out there that's, you know, we're looking at replacing right now. We have asbestos cement pipe that was installed generally in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And then now we currently install PVC and ductile iron pipe. Another criteria we use is age. Obviously, the older the pipe gets, the more likely it is to be to break. So those older pipes, we move them up on the list. We also have water break data that we have. We have a great software system that tracks all of our water main breaks, so we're able to identify those on our map. And so if we have an area that we're constantly going out to repair, we know we better move that project up on the list so we can get that project, you know, install new pipeline. This picture on the right, I don't know if you could see it very well, but that is a water main with a bunch of repair bands. So there was a leak at one point, and they put a repair band on it, which is the silver with the blue. And then maybe they came back later and put another one in. There was about 4 on that pipe right there. So after that repair, they realized, okay, it's time to start replacing some water mains, because that's a big expense to the district to excavate and then replace all, you know, all that pavement above it as well. So we replaced that water main about 5 years ago. And then another criteria we use is location. Where are these water mains? You know, a lot of our water mains are located on people's properties. We have over 250 miles of pipeline. It's hard to keep track of what people do on their properties. So sometimes you'll go by your water main and you see a bunch of trees planted there now. So obviously a pipeline with a bunch of trees on top is probably not going to last as long as a pipeline that's protected maybe in a roadway. So those are some of the criteria we use. Is that? All right. So building off of that 1999 plan is really where Project 2030 study comes into play. As we've talked about a number of times, you know, this study is really building off of our current existing plan. You know, we have 250 miles of pipeline. Many of our water mains that were installed in the 60s through the 80s, they're reaching the end of their useful life, you know, coming up, starting in 2030. Now, Roger and I, we're going to talk a little bit, go into greater detail about the Project 2030. This slide, just to let you know, this is part of our capital improvement program. You know, we have various goals for the study, which is, you know, the asset inventory. We'll go into further detail later. The water main replacement program, We're going to be talking about the different funding options. And then obviously you all, along with other customers, will be giving us feedback regarding, the options that are presented. So with that, I want to jump to this display out here. Just wanted to give you guys kind of a glimpse at what our crews do every day and what our facilities look like. Obviously, this is a smaller version of what's in the ground, but this is a typical water service to your home, for instance, or to your business. So we have in blue, which is the water main. That's a PVC pipe. The other pipe that's standing upright is a ductile iron pipe. So, those pipes are in the ground. And then to provide water to your facility, we have a service saddle. And so that service saddle is strapped around the main, and then they drill a hole. And after that, they put a valve, which is a corporation stop valve, which is that brass device after the saddle. And then we have a water service line. So that blue piece of plastic is supposed to represent our water service to your home or business. And that's a polyethylene water service. We also have copper water services, and I think there's a copper piece of pipe on the table as well, so you can kind of see the two different types of services that we have. And then once you get closer to the home, you'll probably see on your property typically a green box. It's our meter box. And right before that, you'll see another valve. Well, it's actually buried. You won't see it unless you dig it up. But that is our curb stop valve. So we have that valve. And then the next item is, it's actually two pieces. You can't really tell. But you have a meter setter, which is this device. It's separate. And then you have your meter. So the meter setter is really there to just hold the meter in place. It just makes it a lot easier for the crews to set the meter in. There's also some valves there too that can be operated as well. And then the next item is your meter. And then downstream of that is your customer service line to your property. So that's typically, a PVC pipe. So the district owns, operates, and maintains everything up to that PVC customer line. And then from there, the customer owns that. So I just wanted to kind of give you a background on our facilities. David's crews put that together, so thank you so much for doing that. And during the break, if you want to come up and take a look at it, feel free.
Well, thank you, Missy. Before we move to the break, though, which we'll do in about 10 minutes, we wanted to give you a chance, if you had any questions about the district operations that you heard from Susan, or the engineering side from Missy. Okay, let's see if you have any questions. So anyone who has a question for Susan or Hillary or Missy or David? Yes, David.
We have questions here.
No.
Great.
No, it's something.
Yes, please use the mic.
David's putting me on the spot here. So I had a question, just what, sorry. And I know we're going to talk about funding options and things like that, but we were noticing that, 96% of the budget comes from, consumer rates. So
That's a problem with
obviously nobody likes to see rate increases, but we know it's coming. What other ways are there for us to raise money to pay for these projects besides the consumer?
And what I'll do is I'll capture questions for these so that we'll have these to be able to refer to. And some, I'm sure you'll have a thought, but a lot of them may come up, they will be answered in subsequent meetings. So,
and that's a lot of what I was going to say is that, we haven't had an opportunity to bring our financial consultant to the Customer Advisory Committee as of yet. That said, there really aren't that many options for an irrigation district. Now, San Juan Water District, rather, You may recall that David alluded to the fact that they are a community services district, a CSD. That's a different type of organization organized under the state law. And they actually get a share of property tax to offset in addition to their rates. We do not. So we are largely a rate-based organization. That said, one of the things we will look at within the context of rates is, do you want to go pay-as-you-go, pay cash? Do you want to smooth out those expenses further through debt financing, either full debt financing or a blended approach of pay-as-you-go and debt financing? But there's pros and cons to all of those different funding options. And so what I would say is, let's put that one in the parking lot, because a lot of those questions are going to get answered as we start to work with Ralph Tellis, our financial consultant.
Yeah. And be sure to speak into the mic.
Hello? There you go.
It's on.
Okay. As a follow-up question, are you restricted by offering any other types of services that might be revenue generators, or is it just because of the fact that you are this water district that's controlled by law that restricts you?
Bad for the water district to have a car wash.
So we'll need to research some of that question with Josh, our general counsel that you met earlier. That said, I do know that we can do one thing. One of the things that is included in the scope of this project as an ad is to analyze pressure control and power generation that can come from pressure control. So it is conceivable that one of the things that we could do as we design the next generation of infrastructure is add more pressure control, and then you can develop from that, you can capture the power from pressure control like green energy, and you can sell it back to SMUD. So that could be a potential enterprise opportunities. There may be other enterprise opportunities, but they're fairly limited in their scope. But we'll certainly research more of the range of options that are out there. Yes, also the other enterprise opportunity, and in fact we're doing this year, is the opportunity to sell excess water to areas that in the state need the water more than we do. So as an example, we are doing a groundwater transfer and water transfer as a consortium of agencies, ourselves, San Juan, and several surrounding agencies, where we're going to sell off about, I don't remember the number, is it 20? Oh, 12,000 acre feet total that we're going to send down south to a customer. Our portion is about 2,000 acre feet. So that represents revenue that we didn't even budget for, because it's very difficult to be able to plan for those water transfers, because there's a series of limitations through the delta as well as the hydrology of the given year as to whether or not we can even do a groundwater transfer. So that's another enterprise opportunity. So there are some, but in the general and grand scheme of things, they're fairly limited.
What is your total budget? That wasn't in the presentation.
Total budget is $20 million.
And my second follow-up question.
Annual budget.
Thank you. Is Prop 68 is on the ballot right now, Parks and Water. So I understand the park side pretty well, but are there funding opportunities for this project?
So those funding opportunities, those programmatic grant opportunities and other special funding opportunities generally are funneled through our regional water authority. They're our grant clearinghouse for the region. We put our projects on a list that they maintain, which has an acronym a mile long, and then basically they go through and they rank those various projects, and they do try to distribute fairly evenly out, based on need and other considerations, out to the different agencies. So we've been successful, as an example, over the years in getting $600,000 grants for the development of our wells, which run typically about $3 million a piece, as an example. But regrettably, there's not a lot of outside grant money either at the state and particularly at the federal level. There's the Water Resources Development Act, WRDA bill, which is a 2-year reauthorization bill. There's some very limited programmatic and or earmarking opportunities through that bill, but they are very limited. We certainly continue to want to cultivate a strong relationship with the federal government. We actually have Congressman Ami Bera that will be attending our ribbon cutting of our east side of our Corporation Improvement Project, which I know many of you will be attending. And we continue to build those relationships. But the truth of the matter is the outside dollars, the grant dollars, are very limited.
How about 1 or 2 questions? And speak into the mic, please. Just pull it a little closer.
We just wanted to comment that we feel like the staff has done an amazing job of presenting what you have so far tonight, and it's very clearly delivered, and I have a much better understanding about a lot of the history that's gone on here, even though I lived through it here. I didn't know what was going on.
What are you going to ask him?
But really the only question that we were wondering about meter readers. That sounds silly, but you know, how are the meters that we have today read? Are they all electronic? Do we have someone coming by and reading meters, and will the meters in the future be smart meters?
So let's see here, is Rex in the house?
And you
May have
handle it,
stepped
David.
out.
I think David can handle it.
You know, and because of the limitation of time, why don't we talk at the break up here at the table, and I'll show you the different types of meters that are optional. And yes, we do have meter readers right now that we consult out, but in the future, we probably will not.
Most of the meters are touch read, they're called, and we contract with Alexander's for the meter reading. We do have some radio reads as well, and one of the things, and Rex has entered back into the room, he's our project manager for the meter replacement program that you'll be working with us on as well. That's a separate project on a kind of a different schedule. But yes, we will be looking at different technology platforms because we would anticipate that the next generation of meters are going to be smart meters. And it's interesting because the technology platforms continue to change right out from under us, even within the universe of smart meters. And so our ability to partner with many, many agencies around us to create economies of scale, make us a much larger, volume customer, we'll get those unit costs down. And so that's a lot of the work that we're doing right now is to get that consortium into place, and then we're going to start working on the planning study and involving all of the customer advisory committee and various facets of that. But will be a very interesting project as well.
Thanks.
How about one more question, and then I would ask if anyone else had questions, could you come up at the break, give them to me, and I'll make sure to capture them. We'll get answers before the next meeting. So any other question over anywhere else? Okay. All right. If you do have a question, just come on up during the break. I'll capture those. Let's take a break. And what we would like to do is to do a 10-minute break. So if you actually, yes, 10 minutes. So if you could be back in 10 minutes, we'll just keep going. Thank you.